Welcome back to another episode of Expat on Two Wheels, and this one is a somber tone because yesterday a person was riding up at Daling, the road that was in my two previous videos, and he fell off the side of the trail and died. And the thing is, when the first time I went up there, I told everybody there's basically a matter of time before somebody falls off the side of the trail and gets hurt, right? And I was kind of in a hurry to finish the trail and get back there because I knew that the likelihood was very high that the road would get closed. And it has gotten closed. And at this point, we don't know if it will be opened again. And in my last two videos, I told people, number one, make sure that you have the required skills, the required skill set to be up there. And then I gave 5 tips on how to stay on the trail and not chew up the trail and destroy the trail. And after that video, there was a huge group of bikes that went up there. On February 12, like 60 plus bikes went up there, and they're saying 5, 6, 7 of them fell off the side of the trail. That's a 10% number, okay? 10% of the people are falling off the side of the trail. And that's not acceptable. Those are people who do not have the skill set. Those are people who are not being careful, who are being careless. So the most serious one on that day was an older gentleman, about 50 years old, who was riding, a farm bike, and he was going over one of the sketchy sections, and that's in my previous video, and he stalled the bike, okay? So one of my tips was be able to slip the clutch. You must be really good with a clutch to ride off-road. Clutches are very, very important. And he clearly didn't have the skill to feather the clutch, slip the clutch, and he stalled the bike. And so he was struggling with it, and he was stopped. He was at a stop, and he just leaned the bike to the right side just a little bit too much and went right down. In that particular place, the first drop, a couple of meters, is vertical. So he went down vertically, bounced off his head a couple of times, and fell down the trail. So he was injured, I guess. They got him out. And then another video I saw, there was a CRF 150 that went off the trail at the very scary place. But the first time I came to that place, I stopped and I walked it because there's basically loose, shaly, right next to the trail, and it leads directly to a vertical cliff, essentially, that's man-made. It's a concrete wall. So then the concrete wall is about 3 meters tall, 3+ meters tall, and then you hit a slope. So it's really quite scary. But it's not at all difficult. It's flat. If you take it slow, you could put your foot down, you can dab along, and it's really not hard at all. So if you're being careful and you have the skill set, you can easily pass that point. Okay? So there's some places where you have to go up and down, and you have to go by narrow places with narrow rocks, and things can always change. Things can always happen. Your tire could hit a rock wrong, and you could fall off the edge. Like falling off the edge it can happen, right? And it has happened to a lot of people. But the situations I'm seeing are carelessness and lack of skill, and that's not really excusable in my book. You went up there without the proper equipment. The guy who was seriously injured, the 50-year-old who was seriously injured, had a half-shell helmet on. The guy who died, he had his helmet attached to the side of his bike, it seems like. So we've all seen the old people who are riding around in the city without a helmet on, and they hang the helmet on their bike. And I can't understand that at all. Like, what is the advantage to having the helmet on your bike? You need to protect your head. Your head bounces off a rock and you're dead. Bottom line. And, you know, these guys, both of these guys had no other gear on, just regular pants, regular shirt, whatever. And if they had had proper gear, if they had chest protectors, back protectors, elbow protection, you know, proper gear, the story would have been really, really different. And you can't stand there at the gate and mandate that everybody come through, have this gear and that gear and the other thing. People just need some common sense. You know, the Aboriginals run through there all the time without the gear, but they have the skill. And they're fine as far as I know, right? And that's their prerogative to ride back there in that way. But, you know, when somebody from the outside, a city person, comes and does the same thing, and they get hurt, the whole place is closed and nobody gets to go back there. And so I hope that they will fix the road. They're working on fixing the road. They've pushed the road back quite a ways from the first time that I went. But I hope that they continue working on that, and I hope they open it when it's safe for everyone, because people can't be trusted to ride a narrow, shaly trail. They can't. And so it's going to have to be wider. It's going to have to be a road. And it won't ever be stable. If you go up to Danda Lindao, it's a beautiful, beautiful place. And they've done a lot of work to stabilize that place and try and make it better. But it's not safe. There's constant rockfall. They constantly have to move rock off the road. And it's not safe. And Darling is even more remote. But you could make it a lot better. You could make it wide enough for vehicles to pass easily. And I hope that happens. And we'll see what happens, and we'll stay tuned.